There are a lot of causes in life to celebrate: birthdays, weddings, in some cases, funerals, graduations, bar mitzvahs, Amerigo Vespucci Day. That's right, look it up yourself. The discoverer of our great nation. And sometimes maybe you don't need a good cause to celebrate. Sometimes you just want a nice evening in with friends. Maybe you're like, the weather's bad, or I just don't want to get out again now that I've gotten home. Contact our friends at Drizzly. That's DRIZLY.com, or download the Drizzly app today. And new customers, if you use promo code SPRING5, that's SPRING and the number 5, you get $5 off your first order. Whether you're looking for beer, wine, spirits, you can have it delivered sometimes in less than 60 minutes. There are a lot of people out there today that say, you know what, Steve, I just don't feel like getting out. I don't want to go out in kind of the hustle and bustle, but I would like to have a nice drink. I'd like to be able to have a chance to relax with friends and family. Let Drizzly.com be your partner in that endeavor.
Underdog Fantasy is the fastest growing fantasy app and easiest place to play fantasy sports. Just jump on UnderdogFantasy.com or download the app, draft your team, and that's it. And if drafts aren't your thing, they also have a pick'em game where you can win 20 times your money in a single night. Use promo code RADIO, and Underdog will double your first deposit when you sign up with up to $100 in bonus cash. Deposit $100, get $100 free. That's promo code RADIO. Terms and conditions apply.
Welcome to the Boneyard with Steve Robertson. As always, I am your good friend and host, Steve Robertson, here on the Monday edition of The Yard. I'll give you a little programming note. Next week, I guess it's next week. Is it next week? No, it's not next week. Or maybe it is. I don't know. But either way, I am going to be on vacation here in about 10 days or so. So we're going to have some scheduling changes because I want to make sure that you guys get taken care of while I'm away. But we'll still get you your shows, but they may come in a different order. Let's just say that. So as we get a little bit closer, I'll give you guys the schedule there. But I'm not going to completely abandon you, though. I'm going to take some time to myself. I rarely do that, but I hadn't had a family vacation in years, but going to have one this year. Normally, I'm in Omaha, as I've shared with you guys before. And so that's always kind of the plan. And then this year, when it looked like State wasn't going to make it, we decided, you know what, let's take a trip together. So we're going to do that. So full complement of shows this week, barring something unforeseen, should be your regular schedule. And then, we'll take a look and see what we need to do the next week. So, next week I will be leaving, I guess, on Wednesday. So what we'll do is it will probably be a 2-show week. We may miss a show. Just kind of depend on how I feel, I guess. But we'll do a Monday show and probably a Tuesday show, and then come back, the next week and kind of get caught up with you guys. So there will be an interruption, shall we say. Don't anybody think anything's wrong with me. I'm just living life. But I will give you more on that, maybe early next week. Kind of let you know what I want to do. Because I'm not going to work. I'm on vacation. We're not in season right now. Now, this week, we do have our first 2 Mississippi State football prospect camps. Paul Jones and I will be providing full coverage from those events. I will miss the camps the following week. But the main camp is Top Dog Camp this weekend. And we'll come back again in July and have a Top Dog Camp. And we'll have, wall-to-wall coverage on that. So be looking for that. These camps are big, as I kind of touched on last week, because there are a lot of prospects right now that are like on the cusp of either an offer or Mississippi State getting serious about getting them committed. Many of those will be on campus this weekend. And so we're about to see business pick up a little bit, not just for us, but kind of around the country as these camps kind of get underway. Eager to kind of see how that all unfolds. And that's a good thing, too, about having the Palmero Center. We can still get some work done, in-house in the event there is some weather. But all of that said, a lot's fixing to happen. Now, we're expected to get a little bit of rain this weekend, but I don't think that's going to really intrude on what we want to get done. And there are a lot of guys, too, we just want to get to campus. We talked last week about Chris Parson, current Florida State quarterback commitment. I do not believe that commitment sticks. I know he went there this past weekend. There have been some interviews and some media reports about that, but he is expected to visit us this weekend. Now, keep your fingers crossed. This time of year things change. And this is a young man, too, that committed to Florida State very, very early with the understanding that he would be the quarterback in the class. And this weekend, they're bringing in Brock Glenn and a couple other players, I think, quarterbacks on official visits. So he's going to be with us. It's one of those things, too. It's like you make a commitment to a young man, and then even if things change, you've got to be able to navigate that with, some caution. I think it's an important part of it. It's when you're beginning a relationship, and this is not insignificant type commentary. This is about your career. This is about your college playing days. And so you get the opportunity to play. You want to be able to get on the field. And so I don't think Chris Parson is anyway scared of competition, but I think there is a trust factor there too. Well, you told me one thing, and then now you have changed. It's kind of reminiscent in some respects of the Chris Garrett situation. Remember years ago, Chris Garrett committed to State very early, and it was kind of the understanding. Chris is our guy. And the next thing you know, we offer Tyler Russell. And, within moments of that news being broken, I find out, hey, we'll be looking elsewhere. Heard that from the Garrett family. And so they did. He signs at LSU. Things didn't work out. But it's so difficult to get things back on track when there is an understanding of how things are going to go, and then those change, especially when it's the adults making the change. And it's so easy to, you can say, well, we lost this quarterback and that quarterback, and we've got to do this, got to do that. Yeah, we communicate all that to your player before you go do it, because it comes off very disingenuous when you don't. And that's kind of how this thing looks here with Florida State and Chris Parson. It's like this was the understanding. Now all of a sudden, okay, well, now we got to take two quarterbacks, and how that was communicated to him, I don't know. But I can suggest to you now, with the days of social media, not much is hidden. It's like I'm committed and I'm out here carrying the banner and helping you guys recruit. And then I read on social media that some other kid's got an offer to play my position after you promised me I was your guy. And so there's going to be some mistrust there. So not to say I expect Chris Parson at this point, but Mississippi State is now firmly in the discussion. The Bulldogs have entered the chat, as the kids like to say. Allfrem had good conversations with he and Mike Leach, and now we'll try to get him on campus, and we'll see what happens. State's still looking for their quarterback. As I shared last week, wrote an article about that. Only Nick Saban in Alabama has offered less quarterbacks than Mike Leach and Mississippi State in the SEC West. Arkansas has offered, 18, 19, 20. A lot. But State, very stingy with quarterback offers. And this is an offense, too, where your accuracy matters. You're not necessarily pursuing the dual threat guy, but I think Parsons a guy that if you do go get him, if things break down, that's a guy that can tuck and go get you first down. You can't just drop 8 and hope for the best, because if that guy gets outside containment, he can move the chains and kind of keep your linebackers honest. So we'll see. But again, that's the big story this week as it relates to Mississippi State recruiting. Is will Chris Parson show up this weekend? Not expecting him to camp. I think it's a situation where he just comes and visits and gets to know the lay of the land, spend some time with the staff, and then we'll kind of see how things go from there. But again, that's the big story. If you want to know what's going on in recruiting, that's the thing to keep up with this week. What does Chris Parson do? Does he come to Mississippi State? Listen, I saw the interview, and I got absolutely nothing negative to say about anybody involved, the interviewer or Chris Parson himself. But what do you expect him to say? Right? What do you expect him to say? The smart thing to do is, you go to campus, you have your meeting, and you figure it out, and then you still kind of go about your business. And the guy hadn't even visited Mississippi State yet. And so if State's a rising contender there, you wouldn't show up over there and say, well, I'm going to decommit and go to Mississippi State sight unseen. You wouldn't do that. That's just no way to go through the recruiting process, especially during the month of June. And it's a long-standing relationship with he and Florida State. So I don't read anything into the interview one way or another. It makes no difference to me. what was said, because this is a young guy trying to survive a complicated process. So let's just let things play out. That's the important thing now. Just be patient. Just be patient, and we'll see how things go. Let's thank our friends at Bulldog Burger Company. Love those folks, man. Doing a great job for a long time. And I suspect I was probably one of their first 200 customers. Shortly after they opened, I was in there. It was love at first bite. It was. Then they end up sponsoring the show. It's been a great relationship, I think, for all of us, especially you. There were many of you that had heard about Bulldog Burger Company, but maybe you weren't quite as familiar with everything that they offer. And now it's kind of become an empire. It was one location, now it's three. The flagship right here on University Drive, then Gloucester Street there in Tupelo, and then now the new one, Lake Harbor Drive, there in the Ridge and Flowood area. Be sure and go check it out if you haven't already. Have the spring rolls as your appetizer. That's not the only appetizer on the menu, but it's my favorite. It really gets you going, right? Get a great restaurant quality hamburger. Have the Mission. I like the pico de gallo on the side when I get the Mission. I like the Good Morning Burger. A lot of protein there. And you don't have to get the traditional bun. You can get a wheat bun, or you get no bun, get it served on a bed of lettuce. No matter your thought process, they can get you taken care of. And maybe you don't feel like a hamburger. Maybe the kids want burgers. You're thinking, you know what, I want to eat a little bit lighter. You can. Get that BLT salad. I like it grilled. You may like it fried. It's good either way. The Sloppy Joe sliders, everything great. I've had everything on that menu. And I can assure you that you're not going to walk away disappointed. There are a few places in life where that can be said. Great food, great price, great atmosphere, all run by a great group. Bulldog Burger Company, the place for people to go to meet. MEAT. All right, so you're keeping up with the college baseball tournament. I suspect you are. We got a couple in-state schools still playing, so I imagine there is at least a rooting interest for or against those schools. But it's been exciting, man. I hate that we're not playing, but I don't want to belabor the point there. I think we all feel the same way. I mean, I'd love to be able to be playing, but pretty crazy. All right, so let's kind of get you up to date here. Tennessee sweeps through their regional. Campbell made it interesting, as did Georgia Tech. I mean, both of those teams had a lead against Tennessee and just couldn't hold it. And a lot of people are making a lot of talk about the Jordan Beck one-finger salute yesterday. I'm not a fan of that at all. I am a fan of irreverence. I like, kind of challenging the social norms and things like that. But blatant disrespect on the playing field for opponents, that's taken it a little bit too far, especially when it was an error. It wasn't like you just burned the guy. I think the guy committed an error. But even regardless, there's just no room for that in baseball. And I know some people are like, oh, we like being the bad guys. You know, okay, once you be the bad guys just for winning big, but show some class. That kind of stuff is just, I'm a firm believer the baseball gods are watching that kind of stuff. Maybe it's just me, but that's how I feel about it. Not a fan of that at all. Tennessee's making a lot of enemies, and not necessarily for how they play. Because how can you watch them play and say and doubt their ability? They're a fantastic baseball team. But it's one thing to win and another thing to win and rub people's noses in it. You don't make a lot of friends that way. A lot of people in college baseball breaking down film. A lot of people would love to be able to expose a hole in your swing if they could. I just don't think you want to make enemies this time of year doing things like that. All right, so Tennessee wins their side of the bracket. They're going to play Notre Dame in a Super Regional. Notre Dame, a bit of a media favorite. They win the Georgia Southern Regional. You know, Georgia Southern beats UNC Greensboro, and then Notre Dame beats Texas Tech, and then Notre Dame beats Georgia Southern. Texas Tech then beats Georgia Southern, and then Notre Dame beats Georgia Southern, or beats Texas Tech. So that'll be interesting. You know, Notre Dame will travel to Knoxville. Notre Dame has good pitching. They don't have great pitching. They're 38-14. I mean, they're not exactly a team you look at and say, hey, they have absolutely set the woods on fire. But they have been very good. It'll be interesting to see what Ling Jarrett does with Tennessee. Could Notre Dame beat them? They absolutely could. Do I expect it? No, I don't. But they could. Ivan Melendez with a big weekend, now 30 home runs for the University of Texas Longhorns, now 45-19. This is a team early on that I suggested should be number one in the country in the preseason polls, and they were in most polls, and I think that was Deserved. A lot of people thought we should be number one because we were defending national champion. I didn't agree. I don't think that's how polls work. But Texas kind of beginning to play up their potential. They've had some injuries this year too, but now they're in a super regional round again. They take care of Air Force, Dallas Baptist, and Louisiana Tech. I mean, that regional was really not very good. It really wasn't. Texas got a pretty good draw there. And that's the thing, too, like Dallas Baptist. Like, there are a lot of people in college baseball circles that keep saying, Dallas Baptist is an Omaha team, but just hadn't been there yet. It's just a matter of time. They got a great recruiting footprint. They did a great job developing pitching there. It's just a matter of time. Last year, they arguably should have been in Omaha last year. And if memory serves me correct, they lose to Virginia out at South Carolina. Remember there was like 10 people at the game? The game went into like Monday. It was crazy. But Dallas Baptist, again, a solid mid-major, but just can't get over the hump. They get in as a 3 seed this year, and then, it's over. All right, so today, East Carolina and Coastal Carolina are playing regional final. I had picked Virginia to win this regional, and I'm wrong. I admit it. A lot of people pick Coastal Carolina. Coastal Carolina 36-18 going into the regional. This is a weird regional too. For ECU to be a top 8 national seed, they got one of the more consistent mid-majors in Coastal, and they get a really solid ACC team, a team that's won the national championship with Brian O'Connor there at Virginia. So you can't say Eastern Carolina got a peach of a regional, despite the fact they did get Coppin State, a losing team, as a 4 seed. But the 2 and 3 seeds there are very capable of winning that thing. Again, a lot of people expected Coastal to win it. A&M wins their regional last night. That proved to be interesting, too. Oral Roberts, 38-18 going into the regional. And, of course, UL Lafayette, or Louisiana, whatever they want to be called this week, a very solid team. And then TCU. And, TCU lost some players last year. They called this the Slosh Bowl. A&M, I thought, was really good. I thought TCU and Tommy Sacco were outstanding in the regional, too. A&M, just a little too much. A little too much. So they will host the winner of Louisville, Michigan. Louisville and Michigan in a regional final today. Louisville, of course, takes out SEMO State, and then Oregon gets eliminated yesterday. But Michigan and Louisville getting after today. That'll be interesting. I picked Louisville to win that bracket. Michigan had played really well, though. All right, Florida and Oklahoma still getting after it. Oklahoma jumped all over Florida the other day. Florida got even yesterday, so we'll have a regional final today. Excited about that one. I picked Florida to win the regional, even though I think Oklahoma is certainly capable. I just felt at home with Florida's pitching, they ought to have a good chance. Oklahoma really swings it well. Liberty and Central Michigan really just also runs in this thing. 2 really good teams in Florida and Oklahoma. The winner of that will play Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech, the 1 seed in their regional and top 8 national seed. They take care of Wright State, Columbia, and Gonzaga. Virginia Tech got a peach of a regional. I don't think there's any question. I don't know how anybody could really argue against that. And they take care of business. And good for them. It's good for the game. It really is. It's good for the game to see those teams, have a chance to succeed. All right, switching sides here in the regional. Oregon State and Vanderbilt, they're going to play the regional final today. And how about Vandy going out there and playing really well? Enrique Bradfield, the kid's going to be around another year. Oh, my gosh. How great is that for the game? So that's interesting. Oregon State, the number 2 national seed, and Vandy's up there, really a game away from taking this thing. Auburn has done really well, scored a ton of runs. And they're going to have the resumption of last night's game today. Auburn winning that game handily should sweep this thing. And I was one, honest with that, I was a person that had Auburn done a little bit better down the stretch. I think you could have made a case for Auburn to be a top 8 national seed. And they're playing that way now. Now, how interesting would it be to have Vanderbilt knock off the number 2 national seed in the Pac-12 and then play Auburn in a super at Auburn? How cool would that be? All right. the next bracket up is the Southern Miss Miami bracket, those two pods together. Southern Miss and LSU, this has been a very entertaining regional. I've watched most of this one and have really enjoyed the quality of play. Sometimes you're skipping back and forth, you're flipping from game to game. It's like the broadcast and the talent level just really doesn't hold your attention. I think this has been a great one. So Army is the first team eliminated, and then Kennesaw State really made a game of things against Southern Miss in the elimination game. So Josh Hatcher's college career is over, and for the first time in Josh Hatcher's career, he's not ending his year in Omaha. He's one of ours. He could have helped us this year too. And again, I don't think he puts up at the same level of numbers here, and perhaps a change of scenery was good for him. But we wish Josh the absolute best. LSU, of course, wins the first two games. The craziness to come back and beat Southern Miss the way they've done. Pretty crazy. All right, and so Southern Miss wins yesterday to force today's game, a Game 7 in this regional. The winner advances to the Super. The winner of this game will host the Super, whether it be Southern Miss or LSU, because Miami was upset in their regional. And how difficult was that? 2 one-run losses yesterday. And of course, they're slow getting started. Remember, Miami struggled against Canisius early on, then finally got it going. And then Ole Miss beats them, and that was an entertaining game too. Ole Miss with some big clutch hits from Peyton Chotinier late in that ball game. And then, of course, they beat Arizona. And so it's like you look at all this stuff. I guess Miami. That Miami baseball program is interesting. We had them in the regional a couple of years ago. I think we're thinking, man, these guys are going to be great. Miami is back. I just don't know. I don't really know what's going on, with Miami. But credit Ole Miss, they go out there and they win the first two, and now they're in a situation where they could be in a super regional either at Southern Miss or at LSU. Two teams they know very well. And that's the thing, too. It's a new season, right? Nothing matters now. If you win today and get to the Super, you're in the top 16. And I submit to you, too, if Ole Miss wins this regional, I don't know, you can get rid of Mike Bianco. I know a lot of them want to. But if he wins that regional on the road and gets to a Super again, even if he doesn't get to Omaha, how do you run him off? I don't know how you can. Taking a quick look back at Miami, Miami is a blue blood of college baseball. There's no question about it. They have done a tremendous job there over the years. They've won the national championship 4 times, been the runner-up 2 other times. But they hit a little bump in the road here a couple of years ago, right? They were a team that was pretty much always in the tournament. Always. I think from 1980, and look at the numbers here, they went every season in the 80s to the tournament. And then you get into the 90s, and they go every year in the 90s. You get into the 2000s, they go every year in the 2000s. And then you get to 2010, and you have a nice little streak there to get snapped in 17 and 18. Well, you go out and you hire Gino DiMare, and everybody's like, well, this is going to be the turnaround. And in many respects, it was. 2019, they go 41 and 20, 18 and 12 in their conference, and then they get to the NCAA regional here, and then we beat them. They were off to a good start in 2020, and then they take a step back in 2021. 33 and 21 overall, 20 and 15 in the conference. They get to a regional, don't advance. This year, 40 and 20 and 20 and 10 in the ACC, so people are like, hey, this is the year they're back on track. They get to a regional and don't advance. And so, I read other people's commentary about their programs, and a lot of people feel the same way that we all do, right? It's like there's a lot of commonality in this. If you're not winning big, people are disappointed in you. But it's difficult to think about this. Miami, again, a team that's been a perennial NCAA tournament team, a team with multiple national championships, has not been to Omaha since 2016. That's crazy. Since they went in 2008, they've only been 2 times. 2 times in the last 14 seasons. And so, folks are getting a little restless down there. And people already thought, oh, we got to fire the coach. There's no way you fire the coach. But that's what people are thinking. It's like, oh, we just can't get over the hump. It's always the same old thing. We get into a situation where we get in a regional and we don't make it to the supers. That happens a lot. Happens a lot. It really does. It's not just our people, right? It's so easy to get caught up because we're only so acutely aware of what happens with us. You don't understand. Everybody out there wants to be better. And, of course, now Miami's will watch two other teams play in South Beach today for the chance to go to the Super. So, again, so whoever wins, Ole Miss or Arizona, they're on the road next week at either Southern Miss or LSU. I can only begin to imagine that atmosphere at the box if it happens that way. And listen, Southern Miss, not a huge stadium, but, man, they've had great atmospheres there. And I see this stuff on Twitter and social media sometimes, and it's like, somebody says, well, it's because LSU fans are there. Well, yeah, there's a lot of LSU fans there too, but Southern Miss people love their baseball program too. There may not be as many of them, but the ones that come are very loyal and very supportive of the team. Not to mention it's a regional. Of course they're going to turn up and show. And so, and again, there's no point debating with those people on Twitter, but I just find it interesting. I think Southern Miss kind of been disrespected by some of these LSU people. And that's not to say that LSU hadn't played well, and it's not to say that Southern Miss hadn't played well. It's going to be interesting. But again, the Miami Regional, Ole Miss and Arizona right there, and they were a team last year. Those two played in the Super Regionals last year. So they ought to be quite familiar with each other. I just wonder how much pitching each team has left in the tank. All right, are you watching this Stillwater Regional? Man, how much fun is this? Did you see it yesterday? Oklahoma State gets down 12-0 to Missouri State and comes back and win, 29-15 or whatever it was, something ridiculous like that. And then they beat Arkansas in the nightcap. I told you guys when we began the previous, I like this Oklahoma State team. They're an offensive team, pitching-wise, they're a little bit up and down, but they can swing the bat. And it's like they're never really out of it. Last night, they get a lead and couldn't close it out, and they finally did. This Oklahoma State team is capable of getting to Omaha. And I think part of that, too, is, when you look at what that Super Regional is going to look like on the other side of that, as offensive as Oklahoma State could be, I think they can get there. I think it's as simple as that. So Oklahoma State and Arkansas tonight, or is it tonight? Yeah, tonight. That's must-see TV, man. You got to watch that. It's going to be a great way to end your Monday. All right, so the other side of this bracket is got VCU, our friends the Rams. They came to Duty Noble last year, if you recall. And I don't know, man. That was a weird deal. Our people in the left field lounge and out in the right field tiki lounge. Everybody out there is so great and so eager to please other people. By and large, VCU people are a little standoffish, man. I don't know what that was about, but they're going to take on North Carolina today. And VCU has won a ton of games, and then had their losing streak snapped yesterday against North Carolina. This has been kind of a quiet one. Georgia got him there as a 2 and went quietly. Scott Strickland, we talk about Miami. I think Georgia fans have a right to kind of feel that way too. It's like we just can't seem to get over the hump. Last year they missed the tournament entirely. They get in this year, and they're it's 2-2. It's just or maybe they won game. But either way, they have not been a factor. And I thought they got a pretty good draw here. So if VCU wins, they got to travel probably to either Oklahoma State or Arkansas. That's an environment. You talk about going out of the frying pan to the fire. Here we go. Maryland, of course, and UConn, that's interesting. Maryland's a team, too, that a lot of people thought might be a tad overrated because of the conference in which they play in. Their record against the top 100 was not very good. UConn went in there and did a great job, but it'll be interesting to see how that one kind of turns up. I almost picked Wake Forest to win that regional, but I stuck with Maryland. Stanford takes care of Texas State last night to force a winner-take-all regional final. Of course, they played Binghamton, the only other losing team in the field. Mississippi State played those guys, remember, on a Monday. UC Santa Barbara, kind of a trendy West Coast mid-major. They don't really make any racket. But Texas State was a team that had a high RPI most of the year. We expected them to be a good tournament team. They actually get into the driver's seat in the regional, and then Stanford bounces back to beat them yesterday. So it's a winner-take-all thing today. And the thing that I worry about if I'm Texas State is How much pitching you got left? Stanford's a Power 5 team, where Dave and those guys out there, they keep pitchers. So Stanford probably has more pitching available today. Texas State's going to have to find a way to score some runs. I don't know if they're going to. This could be a wild one. It really could be. But, again, it's been a fun weekend, as fun as it could be without us playing. It just irritates me to no end. So, looking at your national seeds here, Tennessee, of course, advances. Stanford still playing for the right to get to the Super. Oregon State in the same boat. That's Pac-12 baseball, and I think the Pac-12 game is much different. But you've got a couple teams playing for their seasons today. Number 4 national seed Virginia Tech advances without any issue at all. Texas A&M advances. Miami, of course, eliminated, your first top 8 national seed to be eliminated in the tournament. Oklahoma State playing Arkansas tonight for the right to advance. East Carolina against Coastal today. So 7 of your 8 still alive. The next 8, Texas has advanced. North Carolina still battling. Southern Miss still battling. Louisville still battling. Florida still battling. Auburn in control but still has not advanced yet. Maryland has advanced. And Georgia Southern is eliminated. So when you begin to think about, as it stands today, there's still a lot of this outstanding. But it appears we've seeded the tournament pretty well. Because right now, 14 of your top 16 national seeds remain alive. And majority of these we do expect to advance. But in that second group of 8, still some teams out there that, some teams that were host teams that are having to battle back out of the loser's bracket. And so that's kind of where we stand. And people say, well, is there a story of the tournament so far? I don't think so. I think really college baseball is the story of the tournament. And so many people are like, oh my gosh, I can't believe what a great weekend it is. It's always like this. I mean, I don't know why it's not more celebrated by other people. There are a lot of people that are missing out on a college baseball game. But when you look at how many games are being played today and how many seasons are on the line, I think, again, it shows there's a lot of parity in the game. I think it's important for people to fully appreciate that and enjoy college baseball. All right, time for today's top 10 list, brought to you by closewithblair.com. You guys know Blair. You should. And I guess maybe before we do that, let's talk about primeshrimp.com too. I hate to get out of order here. Primeshrimp.com, that's your player of the day. They'll make mom or dad, whoever's cooking dinner tonight, you're the player of the game when you use primeshrimp.com. Primeshrimp.com is a Louisiana-based shrimping company. It's been in business since the 1940s. They know everything there is to know about peeling and chipping shrimp. Had some over the weekend. It's one of those things too. It's so conveniently located, like that they pouch it up so good for you. It stores well. A lot of times you get frozen food and it's so bulky in there. These little manila envelopes, basically what they are, and they're well packaged. They're shipped well, and they fit in the freezer very easily. So when you're ready to use them, 4 great flavors to choose from. I love it. You will love it too. If you haven't already, give them a try. I wouldn't partner with people I didn't trust. I sampled all the products before we reached an agreement, and I continue to use them. You will too. Go to primeshrimp.com and use promo code Boneyard to save some money off your order. That's primeshrimp.com, promo code Boneyard. You're going to be glad you did. Like I've told you before, the best thing about it is, and this is the big selling point, yeah, you can run down to the supermarket and probably get some shrimp, probably. You still got to prep it. You got to devein it. You got to peel it. You got to pull tails off. Well, and it's not even seasoned. You order from primeshrimp.com. It's already seasoned. It's already prepared. You put on a pot of boiling water, and 10 minutes later, you've got restaurant quality shrimp. Makes you feel like you're down in the French Quarter, right there in your own dining room. So check them out today. Primeshrimp.com. Promo code Boneyard. All right, now let's look at Close of Blair. Here we go. Blair Chandler, a longtime friend of mine, longtime friend of yours, maybe a friend you just hadn't met yet. How about that? Blair, a mortgage professional. Visit him at Close with Blair. That's CLOSE with Blair, BLAIR.com for all your mortgage needs. And maybe you thought, you know what, Steve, life has gotten complicated. I'm living paycheck to paycheck. And maybe you have some unlocked potential in the equity in your home. Now, I'm not saying let's use that as a bailout from time to time. You want to be responsible with that. But it could change the quality of your life. Maybe you've got, some home improvements to do. Maybe you want to put a pool in. Maybe you've got a wedding to pay for. You don't know how you're going to do it. Rather than go out and get some high interest loan or run up some revolving debt, get a low interest second mortgage or a refi to make that a little easier to deal with. One low monthly payment rather than several payments. You know how paying bills sometimes can be, a daily chore where you spend the whole day having to pay all these little small nitpicky bills. Why not just pay them all off at once? Blair's been in the industry 21 years, going on 22. Back-to-back years, top 1% close ratio in the country. Works for Fairway Mortgage. Recently voted number one in customer satisfaction when it comes to mortgage lending. A lot of people want your business. Blair Chandler has earned your business. Give him a call today. I'm going to give you his personal cell number. 601-500-2344. Again, that's 601-500-2344. And mention to him you heard about him on the Boneyard. He's going to pay for your appraisal. So you're already kind of ahead of the game right then and there, just having some of those fees already kind of taken care of. That's a huge part of it right there. Closewithblair.com. All right, today's top 10 list. You guys know I watch a lot of music documentaries. I don't always get a lot of sleep. So I like to learn. I like to have trivia. So I watch a lot of music stuff. Music moves me. Sports, music, those are my two main interests. So I watched the 6-episode series on Hulu called Pistol, which is about the Sex Pistols and Steve Jones. We have had many requests to do the Sex Pistols. Now they have a pretty limited catalog. And they have some covers in there, too, that we don't always put those on our list. But their debut album, Nevermind the Bollocks, Here's the Sex Pistols, is an iconic album in punk music. There's so many personalities in this band, and they're really kind of a cautionary tale. There's just, they were a self-destructive group by and large because everything they did was at excess. And Johnny Rotten, of course, the front man of the Sex Pistols, about as irreverent as they come. I think Pistol does a good job. It is written basically as an adaptation of Steve Jones' biography, Lonely Boy, kind of the history of the Sex Pistols. But the band was incredibly irreverent. I think in many ways you can kind of draw some lineage to Guns N' Roses. They didn't care. They were not people that kind of conformed to the music industry. And Axl Rose, a very explosive and volatile personality, much like Johnny Rotten. But I wanted to do a top 10 today about the Sex Pistols. I would encourage you, if you're a fan at all, or if you'd like to know more about the Sex Pistols, watch Pistol. Now, they do kind of romanticize the relationship between Chrissie Hynde of the Pretenders and Steve Jones. And Steve Jones has come out and said, well, they kind of Hollywoodized some of that to make her more of a love interest. They did have a bit of a romance, but it wasn't quite as it was maybe interpreted in the episode. But 6 episodes. There is talk about them adding more. I don't know how much more they could add, to be quite honest with you. Because like a lot of things, it's like they burned really bright and fast, and they burned out really, really quick. And so I don't know how much more you could do. Maybe a couple more episodes to kind of tie up some Sid Vicious stuff. But I think that's it. And so, what's interesting, too, is, Glenn Matlock was the original bass player in the band. And then they dismissed him because they said he liked the Beatles too much. And he was really more of maybe a rank and file bass player. Sid Vicious, of course, added to the band later, and Sid really kind of known more for his attitude and his sneer and his onstage persona more so than his musical ability. And as the documentary or docuseries kind of shows, originally he was the guy, Sid Vicious, whose name was also John, was recommended to be the singer rather than Johnny Rotten. And those two were great friends. And so when Glenn Matlock was kicked out of the band, they added Sid Vicious, which kind of gave Johnny Rotten an ally within the band. But Sid couldn't play bass, so he had to kind of learn it as they went. And that's the thing, too, about this band. They're not known for their musical prowess. They weren't especially proficient as musicians. I guess Cookie was a little bit as a drummer. But the reality of it is these are a bunch of guys that just kind of got by on the attitude and kind of being in your face. A couple of songs covers they did that didn't make the list that are in their limited catalog is My Way, the Frank Sinatra track. Sid Vicious actually sings that. Now, the first part of it is just him being silly. But I thought he did a really good job as a vocalist once they kind of made it a punk song. And then No Fun, which is an old Izzy Pop and Stooges song. And if memory serves me correct, it's the last song they played as a band before things really went south. And played a limited set out in California. And that was the last thing Johnny Rotten said, is this is no fun. It's no fun at all. And something along the lines of, do you know how it feels when you feel like you've been ripped off or whatever? And so the band really kind of disintegrated from there. And there has been a lot made about Sid Vicious over the years because, Sid was a guy, too, that was very talented, but also a guy, too, that became kind of an icon in the punk rock culture because of his attitude and his irreverent lifestyle. And then he ultimately becomes this incredible drug addict that gets incredibly addicted to heroin, and it dominated his life. And then in the end, he killed Nancy Spungen. And there is some controversy about that, too. A lot of people don't believe that he did it. They think that he was kind of I guess you'd say, a suspect of convenience. And he initially said, he was wandering down the hallway, that he killed her, and then later said he didn't remember anything because he was so whacked out on drugs. And they had a party that night, and there were a lot of people in and out of there, and some people think that Nancy stumbled in to see somebody stealing some money and was ultimately stabbed. But either way, sadly, she was taken at a young age, and then they were able to bond Sid Vicious out of jail. And so many people maintained that he was innocent. He ultimately overdosed and died. And some people think that was actually a suicide, part of a suicide pact. There was some suicide note found in his pocket that a lot of people kind of doubt the authenticity of. But there is the movie out there, Sid and Nancy. It is an incredibly sad tale. And again, this is a band that was... I won't say they ruled the world, but they are probably the band, when you look at the British punk scene, probably their answer to the Ramones in many respects. But they said they didn't like the Ramones, and I think a lot of that was just professional jealousy. So here's your top 10 Sex Pistols songs. 9 of these 10 will come with Johnny Rotten as a vocalist. So the very first one is a song called Silly Thing, and this is after... Steve Jones and those guys kind of tried to move on. Johnny had left the band. Sid was gone. So they tried to kind of recapture it. It is a good punk song, though. It is. Steve Jones was the original vocalist in what became the Sex Pistols. They were originally called the Swankers. Not the Wankers, the Swankers. And that's something they kind of have some fun with in the movie, in the docuseries. But Silly Thing was kind of a chance for the Pistols to kind of come back. It just never really kind of came together. And Steve Jones... an accomplished musician in his own right now, but once he froze up as a vocalist, they tried to make him a guitar player, and he basically was a self-taught guitar player. And it's amazing to go back now in hindsight and listen to some of that earlier stuff, and you can tell that he was a very basic guitar player. And I think that's one of the reasons that this band has been so popular with young people, is because you can play. You can play their stuff. It's really 2 and 3 chord type progressions, and I think it's easier to kind of play along to. Maybe you can't pull down Eddie Van Halen, but you could probably pull down Steve Jones. All right, number 9, a song that is really more of a groovy, like pop song rather than a punk song is Submission. And this was kind of like in your face to Malcolm, their manager. He had suggested they do a song like this, and they kind of did it to make fun of him. Number 8, a song that may be a little bit underappreciated in the catalog is Did You Know Wrong? I think you'll appreciate that one. That's another good one, a good punk song, too. I like the guitar on it. Number 7 is No Feelings. And I think that probably sums up Johnny Rotten and really the attitude of this band pretty well. Number 6, Problems. And this is a band, too, that fought drug addiction. They fought alcoholism. They fought rebellion. They were basically a bunch of guys kind of thrown together that didn't really care for each other a whole lot. I guess Cookie was probably the guy that you look at and say that he was probably the most normal guy within the band, and he tried to leave a couple times, and they were able to kind of convince him to stay. And in many respects, he and Glenn Matlock, the rhythm section was the strength of this band in the early days. But I think Johnny Rodden just felt like he was outnumbered and really pushed to get Glenn fired so they could bring in Sid Vicious. And Sid's original name was John, too. Johnny and John. They were mates, as they say. Number 5, a song called Bodies. And this is one of the ones that really kind of took off for them live early on. It's based on a true story, but a girl they had met, and she is actually in the docuseries as well. She ends up having an abortion, and somehow, too, they give her the body of the baby, which is crazy, and she carries it around with her. And so they wrote the song about it, and it's very much an anti-abortion song. Kind of shows, the negative and downside of that, about what happens to, people afterwards. No matter your political leanings, it's a pretty important song in some respects. I think it's a very, very powerful and in-your-face type song, and in no way are they, really glorifying either side of the political spectrum. They're just kind of talking about this lady, this girl they met, and kind of the condition she was in after all this happened in her life. She just really kind of lost a lot of herself. All right, so now we're down to the top 4, and I think a lot of people would probably agree these are the top 4. We may not agree on the order. A lot of people believe my number 4 song is the best Sex Pistols song. Obviously, I don't agree, or it wouldn't be number 4, but it's a song Pretty Vacant. And, of course, Johnny Rodden uses a little bit of pronunciation tricks with that title, of course, to kind of get his point across. But, again, Johnny Rodden, not an especially skilled singer, but an incredible frontman. An incredible frontman. I think that really comes across in the docuseries, too. But Pretty Vacant, number 4. Number 3, a song that I first heard when the Make a Difference Foundation released this album called Stairway to Heaven, Highway to Hell. And they had all these modern metal bands cover songs that were written or performed by people that were impacted by addiction. So Skid Row covered this and did an incredible job, but it's Holidays in the Sun. I love this song. And there's the part, though, in the chorus that you can't make it out really well in the original recording, but Steve Jones and those guys in the chorus, when they're singing, Now I Got a Reason, Now I Got a Reason, the band is singing, You Suck, over and over again. There's a lot of attitude in the song. I think it's kind of about it's about basically the Eastern Bloc, about Germany and things like that, and talking about the big wall that separated East and West Germany. A lot of young people today don't realize that was all kind of the product of the Cold War, to separate West Germany from East Germany, communism from the democracy side. And so it's a little bit about that. Number 2, a song that is considered to this day to be the most censored song in the United Kingdom. And many people suggest that the album cover, there was a single released for this, that it's one. Hey, Bulldog business owners, if you're like me, I know exactly what my business needs. Sometimes it's difficult to find the right candidate. Today, there's so many people out there in the job market making it so competitive. It's almost like an interviewee's market. Maybe it's time to flip the script and bring in the hiring power of your friends at Indeed. Instead of spending hours upon hours on multiple job sites or combing through resumes for candidates that might not even have the right skills for you, Indeed's powerful hiring partnership can help you do it all. With Instant Match, over 80% of employers get quality candidates whose resume on Indeed matches their job description. The moment they sponsor a job, according to Indeed.com, you're going to get results. That's one of the best things about it. And here's the deal. Being a Boneyard listener, we're going to give you a little incentive to give our friends at Indeed a try. Start hiring now with a $75 sponsored job credit to upgrade your job post at Indeed.com/Boneyard. That offer is only good for a limited time. You can claim your $75 credit now at Indeed.com/Boneyard. Indeed.com/Boneyard. Some terms and conditions may apply, but we're here to help you find the right candidates to fill all the vacancies at your business.
Bulldog fans, if you drive around this great country, you'll see that there is still very much
a shortage of quality employees. America's workforce is not back to its full capacity. Not exactly sure for all the reasons, but bottom line is some of my favorite businesses having a reduction in staff, a reduction in hours, and in some cases a reduction in services because they can't find quality applicants. Maybe you're in that situation. Let me recommend our friends at Indeed. It's INDEED.com. Indeed, a hiring partner that can help you find the applicants that best fit your unique skill set. A lot of people out there having to hire people perhaps that aren't the most qualified or perhaps aren't prepared for that job just to have somebody. Go through this screening process with Indeed by using this instant match program. One of the best things about that instant match program is you get the people that best qualify for your job. And there's some incentive with that too. Go to Indeed.com/Boneyard, and because you're a Boneyard listener, they're going to give you $75 off. They'll give you a credit right there out of the gate, and you only pay for the applicants and the resumes that you use. Use it today. Get your business back to full staffing capacity at Indeed.com/Boneyard.
One of those things too, it's very, very difficult to find, like the original stuff. It's a collector's item, but it's God Save the Queen, and it's not God Save the Queen in the traditional sense. It's she ain't a human being. It's like basically it was about that time in England when in the late 70s there just wasn't a lot of national pride. There was a lot of poverty. Industry was not good. Employment was sky high. And so there was all these people that felt like that this loyalty to the ruling party or the royal family was almost like a Marie Antoinette type moment. It's like, well, here they are living in Buckingham Palace and living in the lap of luxury, and then many of their subjects, of course, are struggling to find something to eat. So it's really a protest song. We've had that on the show before, and for a long time you couldn't get it. Even to this day, there are some people that didn't want it. And as the docuseries kind of explains too, even when they would do the top 40 songs or the top 20 songs, they would mention the song, but they wouldn't play it on the radio. And all that did really was draw more attention to the song. Now all of a sudden people are like, why do they want me to listen to this? And I think it's important to kind of understand too, the Sex Pistols were so volatile. They were with 3 different record labels in 6 months. And what's interesting too is A&M Records produced God Save the Queen on 45. And then there was this incredible TV performance where Johnny Rotten and Steve Jones and everybody used all this profanity on live TV, and they lost the record deal. And so the majority of those 45s were completely destroyed. You can find them out there on eBay now for about $20,000. People want them that bad. There's not a recording in the world that I would want to pay that kind of money for. But people love it that much. That's what they're paying. And there have been other recordings of the Sex Pistols that have gone, in the tens of thousands of dollars. It's crazy. But God Save the Queen, one of these songs too that really kind of opened the door for really some real irreverence in rock. I think they weren't necessarily a political band, but I think they brought this up. And the original title of that song is No Future, and it was really more about the younger generation of England, and there's just no future. As a matter of fact, that's in the lyrics, and there's no future in London's dreaming or Britain's dreaming. And then they convinced them to do change the title to God Save the Queen because it would be so much more pithy, I guess you could say. It would get more attention. Because God Save the Queen, then it's kind of an anti-royal family protest song. So interesting. But number one for me is Anarchy in the UK. And maybe it's because some of my favorite bands have covered this one. But it was one of the first songs written by the Sex Pistols. And it's one of those songs, too. Again, it's about complete in-your-face irreverence. It's very anti-government, even though Johnny Rotten was not really some political activist. It was just basically, it's a song about freedom. I want to be anarchy. But it's been covered by Megadeth and Motley Crue and others, and a lot of people get together and play this song live as part of a jam session. But Anarchy in the UK was just one of those songs that kind of captivated young people. But you got to remember, a lot of people felt disenfranchised. There's a lot of people, too, that misconstrue the word oppression these days. And there are some people in our society that feel oppressed. Some are, and some just feel that way. But there was a generation of young people, especially kind of the have-nots in England, that's kind of how they felt. They felt like they were oppressed, and they were always going to be second-class citizens, and that nobody ever was going to give them an opportunity to advance their course in life. And this is really kind of an anthem for them. This is what it was about. And you got to think all this happened in the mid-'70s, and so all these songs were anthemic to a generation of people that wanted change within their culture. Doesn't necessarily mean that they got it, but that's one of the reasons that it resonated so much with young people. And so the Sex Pistols, an incredibly important band, and again, just the one full album. They did have some other albums on the Great Rock and Roll Swindle motion picture soundtrack, but that's part of the deal. But there have been a few things that have kind of happened. They've done some things in recent years. They did a benefit show, but they just don't do much. And they were enshrined in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and then they refused to come to the ceremony, which is so incredibly on brand for them. They called it a pee stain. That the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame was a pee stain. And again, it's just so punk and in your face. It's like kind of like One Last Kiss from the world's greatest punk band. And so there were a lot of bands, obviously, that were influenced by this, not just their fashion, but stage show and everything else. They were so ahead of their time. And they were just one of these bands, too, that it doesn't make any sense that they should have been as successful as they were. You talk about timing, you talk about synergy, a group of guys coming together that didn't even really like each other, and ultimately were a very much a detriment to each other's lives. A lot of infidelity, of course, in those relationships. There was one of the comments about Steve Jones, as you couldn't trust him around your girlfriend. There was so much of that was so incredibly destructive and hedonistic. But they had their moment in time where they really kind of captivated a continent and eventually had some success in the United States. But to this day, here we are talking about, the Sex Pistols. And again, we're coming up on 50 years, since that band kind of became something of note. And it was incredible, too, to even watching that docuseries to see how they had such humble beginnings. And I didn't know this. Their rehearsal hall, they got at a discount because the singer from Badfinger killed himself in there. It was like there's all this thread between all of this stuff that kind of connects everybody. So there you go. I would check it out. I mean, if you're a rock fan, or maybe you're just looking for something cool to watch that maybe is outside of your normal type stuff, check it out on Hulu. It's called Pistol. I enjoyed it. I did. There are some parts of it that made me a little bit uncomfortable because there was some things in there, of course, that you don't expect. There's a lot of shock in some of that stuff, too. And so, and I didn't know that Chrissie Hynde was so connected to them, from the Pretenders. She was, a musician, American musician that went to England and tried to make it. And they kind of play up this relationship with her and Steve Jones. And he has come out and said that some of that was kind of Hollywoodized. But again, I didn't really know some of those things. That's one of the things that I enjoy watching that stuff, is to learn things, even if they have been kind of glamorized just a little bit. So be sure and check it out. Again, it's Pistol on Hulu, and give our list an idea, a chance to listen to that. I think you'll enjoy that. And again, it's not your typical rock music. Some of the guitar structure is, but when you hear Johnny Rotten come in with that voice, it's completely different. So check it out. If you have ideas for the top 10 list, reach out and let me know. Best chance is to reach out to Roy on Twitter at Dogmatic67. That's DAWGMATIC 67. And he does a good job of keeping those lists together. And we didn't do a top 10 list for Tom Cruise movies. We did a list. We didn't do a playlist. And Roy went and found a song off each soundtrack and shared it. That's dedication. We aim to please here at the Boneyard. All right, next segment of the show brought to you by Campus Bookmart, longtime sponsors of this show, longtime contributors to the Mississippi State family. Go by and check them out just on the backside of campus there. Very easy to find, right off of 182, just butted up against the backside of campus there, not too far from Lee Drive there. But Campus Bookmart been doing it as well or better than anybody in the Mississippi State merchandising business for a long time. If you can't make it to town to see the lovely, talented Susie and Miss Kathy Brown and Pam Minyard and everybody up there that does such a wonderful job taking care of the Mississippi State family, visit them on the World Wide Web. I'm a big proponent in shopping local. I love online shopping. When at all possible, I try to spend my money locally. Always. Always, always, always. And I love online shopping because I can just, from the comfort of my office, click a couple of buttons and then some cool stuff is on its way. Make that happen for you today. Make everybody in your family's life a little bit better. Surprise them with some unexpected Mississippi State merchandise. Campusbookmart.net, that's a place to find all their merchandising options. And we'll give you a little phrase that pays. That is BSR, which stands for Beautiful Steve Robertson. And that'll get you free shipping on all orders over $50. Any order less than $50, absolutely incomplete. Again, that's campusbookmart.net, promo code BSR. As promised, we're going to preview the SEC East today. And we're going to kind of, once I get back from vacation, we're going to start doing more of these previews, kind of breaking down each team, what they've got coming back, what they lost, what's it look like schedule-wise. We're going to give a brief overview of that today. Had a lot of feedback from you guys about the West. A lot of people said, Steve, you're a little more optimistic about the Bulldogs than I am this year. I think we're going to struggle to get a bowl game. I think you're choosing to be miserable. I think we're an easy bowl team, and I think with a break or two, we could possibly be in a Florida Bowl. But be that as it may, we're talking SEC East today. So we're going to start at the bottom, which kind of stands to reason. We're going to go with Vanderbilt. I've got those guys going 2-10. I do. I think 2-10 is probably the best. They're going to open up at Hawaii. That's a cool trip, and it's going to be a loss. I mean, when you saw Vanderbilt on the field last year, I think we would all agree the talent differential between Vanderbilt and the rest of the league last year was probably more apparent than it's been in recent years. They have really struggled to assemble talent on that roster. I mean, just about everybody they played, with a rare exception, really kind of had their way with them. You know, they won a couple of games last year, and everybody's like, well, you know, maybe things are turning around. I just didn't see any evidence of that. I mean, they finished 2-10 last year, didn't win a league game. They do go on the road to beat Colorado State last year, and then they beat UConn there in Vanderbilt. So a couple big wins, but winless in the league, and a lot of those games down the stretch were really not competitive. I guess the game at South Carolina was probably their best chance to win an SEC game. But looking at this year, I just don't see it. Now, game number 2, they're going to welcome the Elon Phoenix. If you don't win that one, you're probably going winless. Then there's Wake Forest the next week. That's a loss. Then they're at Northern Illinois. I've got that down as a W, but that's on the road. Yeah, so we'll see. I mean, I'm sure those people are thrilled to get an SEC program in their backyard. And then after that, so let's say you win that one. So you're 2-2 after 4. All right, then we get Bama, Ole Miss, Georgia, Missouri, South Carolina, at Kentucky, Florida, Tennessee. All those are losses. So 2-10, that's not a hot take. I think we all kind of see it for what it is. Vanderbilt's going to struggle to win football games. And I don't know when you can expect to have a turnaround. I know Clark Lee is a guy that working hard on the recruiting trail. When do you begin to see the dividends of that? Maybe another year. I just think this is, again, another year of transition for them, and a year they're going to really struggle to put some things together. Missouri. Now, you go last year, I kept telling you guys Missouri was going to upset somebody and be a factor in the East. They weren't going to win it, but they were going to find a way to beat somebody. We talked about that. I don't know that they lived up to what I expected, but they did beat Florida in overtime last year, which was really the end of the Dan Mullen era up there. But they go 6-7 last year, lose the bowl game to Army, which put them under 500. But look again. Last year they beat Central Michigan. They lose at Kentucky, a game they should have won. They blew it, and then they blow out Southeast Missouri. They lose in overtime to Boston College. So you look early on and think, you know what? Hey, this team could easily be 4-0, and then they get blistered by Tennessee. They blow out North Texas, which I guess it was a game for a while. Then they get killed by A&M. They struggle, but they do get by Vandy. Then they get destroyed by Georgia. They go and beat South Carolina, which was a big win at the time. And then they beat Florida, and you're like, hey, we're bowl eligible. You lose to Arkansas. But I don't see, again, I actually think they're going to take a bit of a step back from last year. You said, but Steve, how's that possible? I just think the league, that division, I think has gotten better. I just don't think they're going to be able to sneak up on anybody this year. And it's like last year. I think they were offensively a little bit better, and they may still be. But looking at this year, I've got them going 4-8. So you got Louisiana Tech, then you go to Kansas State. That's a toss-up game. But, when you're a team that's not used to winning, it's tough to win those games. I think Kansas State's a team to line up and run the football against them. Then you got our friends at Abilene Christian, and then you're at Auburn. I think that's a game that Auburn should win. If Auburn loses that game, Brian Harson's wife might delete social media. But if you're Missouri, I think you beat Tech, you lose to Kansas State, you beat Abilene, you lose to Auburn. All of a sudden, you're 2-2. Well, then you've got Georgia and Florida back-to-back weeks, and the game against Florida's in the swamp. That's 4-6. Excuse me. That's 2-4. Then you'll beat Vanderbilt, which makes you 3-4. Then you've got South Carolina. I've got South Carolina winning this game because it's in Williams-Brice. You host Kentucky, you're at Tennessee, you get to Mexico State, and you get to Arkansas. So you can kind of do the math from there. That's 4-8 all day. I think they're staring 4-8 firmly in the face. And they may have some success offensively, but really defensively, they couldn't stop anybody last year. That was the thing that was so disappointing, I think, is that they would get a lead and just couldn't hold it. All right, so that gets to South Carolina. I actually think South Carolina, they had the run late. Everybody's like they're ahead of schedule. To be honest with you, I think some of that was kind of fluky. And I like Shane Beamer. I do think he was an interesting pick, but I think Shane will do a good job and he'll work hard. And I know his kids love him. They go 7-6 last year, including winning the Duke's Mayo Bowl against North Carolina. And it surprised me the way they handled those guys as well as they did. But if you look back last year, it was kind of like they benefited, from playing some teams that were down. And so let's run through it. They beat Eastern Illinois like a drum. They sneaked by East Carolina at their place, 2017. They get shelled by Georgia. They narrowly lose to Kentucky. And I'm not a big Kentucky fan. I kind of get tired of all that in-your-face stuff. But, this is a year for Kentucky, and like it never is. Troy, they beat those guys. Then they get shelled by Tennessee. They beat Vandy, and we expected that they should. And they lose to A&M, and then late you think, there's not a chance of them getting a bowl game. Well, they come out of the bye week, and they beat Florida. And that was the Florida team that had quit. The Florida team this year won't. They lose at Mizzou, and then they beat Auburn. And so they get bowl eligible by winning 2 games at home against teams that they shouldn't have been able to beat. And so I think in many respects, this year, again, will be a bit of a step back for them. And I think that's unfortunate because I think a lot of people think, hey, well, we won 7 last year. Maybe we can get 8 this year. I just don't see it. Looking at the schedule, you get Georgia State, that's a W. You got to go to Fayetteville, that's an L. You get Georgia, that's an L. You get Charlotte, that should be a win, makes you 2-2. Then you get South Carolina State, you should get that to get 3-2. Then you got to go to Lexington. I got that as a loss. I got that 3-3. Then you got A&M. That's a loss. You got Missouri. That's got to be a win. Then you get Vanderbilt. Then you got to go to Florida, Tennessee, and Clemson. Okay, so you're not going to win anything in November. So where do the dubs come from? You got to upset somebody. And I think the schedule this year is probably a little more challenging. But yeah, I've got those guys going 5-7, which will be good enough for 5th in the SEC East. And I see some people now already predicting Kentucky is like a potential New Year's Six team, and they'll be 2nd in the East. I don't see that either because, number one, I think Florida is going to be improved. I think Tennessee will continue to take a step forward, too. Josh Heupel's a good coach now. All right, so let's look at this Kentucky schedule. They get Miami of Ohio, and Ben Roethlisberger is not there. That should be a win. They got to go to the Swamp. It's a big early game for Billy Napier's group, and Billy Napier and those guys run the kind of spread option offense. You got to be sound at linebacker. I don't know that Kentucky will be as good as they have been, even though the Stoops and those guys do a great job preparing you. But this won't be the Dan Mullen spread. It's going to be a little different. Could be a low-scoring game, though. Then you get Youngstown State. That's a W. Northern Illinois, man. Those guys are happy to see the SEC teams write those checks, right? So they should be 3-1 going to Oxford. Can they win at Ole Miss? I think it's a toss-up game. And I think, number one, I think that's probably a game that I've got Kentucky winning, but it could go either way. Then you got South Carolina. You got Mississippi State, and then they're off. And where we're kind of sandwiched on the schedule, I think, is interesting because it's back-to-back home games, then a bye week. So, we're going to have to bring our best effort, and we have not played well at Kentucky the last 2 times we've gone up there. Then they get Tennessee. Then they're at Missouri. They get Vanderbilt. And then it's Georgia and Louisville. I got them going 8-4. 4-4 in the league. They could be a little bit better. Could be. They're a team last year, real quickly kind of looking back at, last year's numbers. We beat those guys last year, and we were the better football team. They went 10-3 last year. But we were better than Kentucky. And again, I think that's the benefit of playing on their side of the league. But they get off to that great start. They beat UL Monroe. They sneak by Missouri in a game Missouri should have won. And then they barely beat UT Chattanooga, a game that the Chats gave away. Mock just let that game get away from them. And then they struggled to beat South Carolina, but they won. So they're 4-0, welcome in Florida. They beat those guys. And you're like, they can't score, but they're playing good enough defense to stay in ball games. So they're 5-0, and then they destroy LSU. So they're 6-0, and everybody's thinking, hey, they're rolling. They're going to beat Georgia, and they didn't. Oh, they're going to beat Mississippi State after a bye week, and they didn't. Oh, they're going to beat Tennessee, and they didn't. But it was a close game. And then they closed out beating Vandy, New Mexico, and Louisville. And then they win the bowl game there. But to be honest with you, I thought all of this was smoke and mirrors last year. They beat inferior competition, and then they beat Florida and LSU in a year where both teams fired their coach. So it's like, you got to play who's in front of you and take advantage of the opportunities around you, and they did. I just don't think they're very good, and I think this year the league is a little bit better, and I think their record will show that. I think they're going to lose at Florida. I don't think there's any question they're going to lose there, and you may not share that same level of optimism. They got to go to Tennessee. I like the Volunteers there. They get Georgia at home. That's a loss right there. So that's 3 right out of the gate. And I think Mississippi State's going to get them. Maybe I'm wrong, and Ole Miss could get them too. It just kind of depends on the quarterback play at Ole Miss. I think after what we saw at Lexington 2 years ago when KJ Costello just fell apart, I think we're going to go up there with a bit of an edge on our shoulder. I think we went up there. So I've got it 8-4. But again, I could see Kentucky going 7-5 because I could see them losing to Vaught Hemingway. You absolutely could. That was a big win last year for State. So, but I've got them 4th at 8-4. You say, okay, well, Steve, so where does that leave you? Well, I've got Florida taking a step forward. And I understand last year they went 6-6. The team quit. All right, so a new broom always sweeps clean. Billy Napier and those guys are used to winning. They've got a good staff in. The talent is there to win. And they probably shouldn't have even played in that ball game last year. Poor old Greg Knox saw his perfect record broken. But, they get off to the 2-0 start. They beat Florida Atlantic, and they win at South Florida. And they nearly beat Alabama, and everybody's thinking, hey, you know what? Mullen's got it going. And people forget they won the East in 2020. But you lose to Alabama, a game they got behind on and rallied back. And you could argue they probably should have won the game. They didn't, but they probably should have. And little did we know it, at this point, would you have ever envisioned Dan Mullen losing his job? They were 2-0 and then narrowly lose to Alabama. You think, wow, that's a harbinger of things to come for Alabama because when Dan Mullen gets them in Atlanta again, he's going to beat them. Then they beat Tennessee 38-14 like a drum. Then they lose at Kentucky, and this is when things begin to get a little dicey here. Now all of a sudden you're 3-2. You blast Vanderbilt. Okay, so we're 4-2. You go to LSU and they run all over you. At that point, they were out of the race for the SEC. No chance, none whatsoever. And then Georgia puts a bullet in you, 34-7, and an embarrassing loss. Georgia did whatever they wanted to do, and then the team gave up. They go to South Carolina and get routed by those guys. And then they come back to beat Stanford 70-52. You recall Stanford had the lead in this thing late and just couldn't close. And then you lose to Missouri in overtime. And then you beat Florida State. And, of course, at this point, it's over. It is so crazy to look at that Florida season now. I think you've got a team that's invested again. I think you've got a coaching staff that is not ready to go out for their lake house. And I think Florida's going to be better. I don't think they're going to be ready to get to Atlanta, and I think they finish a couple of games out of maybe even 3 games out of the league lead. But this Florida game against Utah in week 1, that could be interesting. That could really be interesting there. Coach Bumpus in the group coming in. I could see Utah winning that game. I think in the end Florida wins, but I think that will be a very entertaining game to watch. And that's a 6 p.m. game on ESPN. Maybe set your DVR for that one. Then you welcome Kentucky to the Swamp after last year. Listen, if Billy can get 70, he will. Then you get South Florida coming in. So let's say you find a way to beat Utah. I mean, they could be 3-0 heading to Neyland Stadium. Maybe you even have game day there. I like the Volunteers at home. Then you got Eastern Washington, makes you 4-1. Then Missouri, 5-1. You got the Tigers of LSU coming in. Yeah, we'll kind of see how that goes. Let's give them a win here, 6-1. And then you've got Georgia. That's a loss, 6-2. Then you got to go to Texas A&M. I'm going to give the Aggies the nod here. I think the Aggies will beat them. And I think South Carolina will stroll into Ben Hill Griffin Stadium the next week and get beat soundly. And you've got Vanderbilt and Florida State. So I've got the Gators going 9-3 this year with losses to Tennessee, Georgia, and Texas A&M. But it could be worse. It could be. I mean, you lose to Utah, you lose to Kentucky. You could see some things happening here. I think they beat Florida State, though. I think Billy and those guys will do a good job here. And again, 3rd in the SEC, a solid Florida bowl game, and a step in the right direction. This Tennessee team, I don't know that they got enough credit last year. And not to mention, give hype on those guys some credit, too. For as tight as they played last year, despite the fact they're facing major NCAA sanctions, and when those things can roll down, who knows? We may all be dead and gone. But that's a case that Jeremy Pruitt and those guys, and they had staffers involved in the allegations. So we'll see how things progress. But last year they struggled a little bit early on. They put Bowling Green away. They lose to Pitt in Neyland. Future Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback involved in that deal. Tennessee Tech, they blast those guys. They get shelled at Florida. That's another reason I think that Tennessee will be good to go this year. They'll be ready to get those guys back. They blow out Missouri. They blow out South Carolina. They lose at Ole Miss. They lose in Knoxville. That's the great mustard bottle game, right? And again, Tennessee fans, he was down short of the line of the game. He was. I wanted him to make that first down. I wanted Tennessee to win. But Ole Miss makes a play, and the kid is short of the line of the game. You turn the ball over on downs. Then you got to go to Alabama. That's a loss. They won that game. They lose that game last year. They win at Kentucky, lose to Georgia, beat South Alabama, and beat Vanderbilt, and then lose the bowl game 48-45. I thought they would win that bowl game. They didn't. Now, I think, and this may be completely wrong, I think Tennessee takes a really solid stride forward this year. Now, I think they're going to open the season 4-0, at least. At least. You get Ball State, you're at Pitt. They're going to win that game. Then you get the Zips of Akron. Hello, Joe. And then you get Florida. So I think they're 4-0. Then they get the bye week. Then they got to go to LSU. Toss-up game, right? I got Tennessee winning it. The next week you got Alabama. That's a loss. Then you got UT Martin. Then you're home against Kentucky. That's normally a swing game, right? That's at home. Then you're at Georgia. That's a loss. You get Missouri at South Carolina, Vanderbilt. So you get the benefit of a very, once you get through Georgia, there's 3 wins waiting on you in the East. And so these guys, I think, could be, that LSU game is a toss-up. Let's give it to them right now. I think they're a little bit farther established as an offense. LSU still kind of early in the year, and Tennessee's coming off that bye week. I'm gonna lend more to Tennessee. But, they could be 9-3 too, and then have the tiebreaker over Florida. And so, number 1 in the East, I don't know that this should be a surprise to anybody. I got Georgia going undefeated. How about that? Now, last year, I remember that SEC championship game when Alabama just jumped all over Georgia. We're like, holy smokes. It was like watching a team, it was almost like Georgia brought a different team. It's crazy. Everybody was ready to, put the nail in the coffin in Alabama. It worked out well in an national championship game. But, Georgia, again, last year, they beat Clemson early on. I thought that was the only game they would lose in a regular season. They win it. They blast UAB, South Carolina, Vanderbilt, Arkansas. Remember that Arkansas game? People were like, Arkansas is ready to take the next step. The game was over 5 minutes in. They blast Auburn. They blast Kentucky. They blast Florida. They blast Missouri. They blast Tennessee. This defense, the numbers they put up defensively are just ridiculous. Blow out Charleston Southern. Blow out Georgia Tech. We're talking historic type defensive numbers here. And then Alabama puts up 41. It's insane to think about that. Absolutely insane. So let's look at this year's schedule. And it may sound a little bit silly. Other than the East being a little bit better, I think the schedule actually is a little bit easier than it was last year. You don't get Clemson. So you get Oregon and Atlanta. Georgia's winning that game. Then you get Stanford, you're at South Carolina, the Kent State Flashes, and Mizzou. You've been outside. Think about that. And it gets easier. Then you get Auburn in Athens, and then Vandy in Athens. So there's no reason to think they're going to even slow down before the bye week. They should be 6-0 going to the bye week, and the most difficult game is probably Oregon. Or 7-0, excuse me. They get the bye week before the game with Florida. That's a dub. They host Tennessee. That's a dub. They're here at Mississippi State. That's a dub. Let's not kid ourselves. And then they're at Kentucky and then Georgia Tech. Look at that schedule. Where do you see a loss? And there's always some surprises, right? There's always there's a player, a transcendent player that comes along that elevates a team. But, Oregon is a team that's a long way to make the trip. And, Oregon was a team last year that had a nice squad. They had the last couple of years, but 2020 was that abbreviated schedule. But they go 10-4 last year, and lost a lot. Lost the Pac-12 championship game to Utah, lost to Oklahoma in the Alamo Bowl. Pretty rough year in the postseason, but a 10-2 team, and they returned some pieces off of that. But that's the only real challenge I think in the first half of the schedule for Georgia. And then, again, Georgia just seems to have Florida's number. And then you begin to think about, the toss-up game with Tennessee. I don't know how much of a toss-up it is, but you get it at home. Auburn's a rivalry game, but you get it at home. So I don't see anything standing in the way of Georgia winning the East. And I think most of you probably feel the same way. I can't see that happening any other way, barring some major injury. So that's the SEC East preview. Again, 7-1, Vandy, Missouri, South Carolina, Kentucky, Florida, Tennessee, and Georgia. Some may disagree with me with Kentucky, and that's okay. I don't see Kentucky winning against Georgia, Tennessee, or Florida, and that gives them 3 losses, and they would be the tiebreaker down to all those schools. And I think Mississippi State's going to get them. And Ole Miss could, again. But I think Tennessee is probably your surprise team in the East, but still not good enough to beat Georgia. All right, final segment of the show brought to you by our friends at Portico. Let me go ahead and give you Brooks's number now. 601-416-8075. Again, that's 601-416-8075. Brooks Bryan, friend of mine, friend of yours, friend of Mississippi State. Part of a great group of folks bringing this wonderful residential development to Starkville, Portico. Phase 1 completely sold out. Phase 2 under construction now. 10 houses being built. A couple of them already claimed. Still some time to kind of get involved and pick a lot and pick out your house plans, do some custom builds. Those other houses are going to be built to spec, and so they're going to be available too. Your new neighbor's already enjoying life there at Portico. Very easy to get to off 82, turn on the 12. Very first right is Pat Station Road. It'll take you to Portico. 1.1 miles away from the Mississippi State campus. You've always dreamed of having a place here. Maybe having a retirement home here, maybe a second home here. This is your opportunity. If I was moving to Starkville, Portico is where I would move. I'd like to be closer to campus. But all that being said, that's kind of where we are. All right, let's let's jump in a couple things here before we get out of here. I've got a lot going on, and some things, again, I can't talk about. It's like every time we get so close to stuff that I get excited about it, and I want to share it with you guys. And until we get some signed documentation, there's only so much I can say. But let me just tell you, there's some things in the works that I'm excited about, and once I can say more, I will. But right now, my excitement is about Mississippi State football. I understand it has not been the best of athletic years when you consider our athletic programs. Really, we made a bowl game. We lose the Egg Bowl, we lose the bowl game, and had we won one of those two, I think the expectations around this season would be different. We felt really good. We beat Auburn last year, we beat A&M. We're like, hey, we're taking a step forward, and then we ended on such a sour note. Sour note. And so now people are like, well, what do you know? We can't lose 3 Egg Bowls in a row. And so a lot of people have to, well, it's year 3 under Leach. Well, that's not necessarily a guarantee of success because every program is a little bit different. When Leach was at Texas Tech, they go 7-5 in 2000, and they lose the Gallery Furniture Bowl, so they end the year 7-6. They were 4th in the Big 12 South. In 2001, they're 7-5 again. They lose the bowl game. And then they're 4-4 in the league. And then in year 3, they're 9-5, winning record in the Big 12, and they win the Tangerine Bowl. So all of a sudden things are good. But at that point too, it kind of ushered in a run of 8 and 9 win type seasons and a pretty good string there of of teams that won bowl games. Had a handful of them finished in the top 25. And then of course in 2008 you had the big one, 11-2, and you lose to Ole Miss there in the Cotton Bowl. And that was an offense that was phenomenal. Mike's out of coaching for a while, comes back to Washington State, and Mike has told me he did not realize how devoid the program was of talent. So it took a little longer there. 2012, you're 3-9. You get to a bowl game. In the second year, you go 6-6. You lose the New Mexico Bowl, so losing record. Year 3 goes 3-9 because you were at the end of a talent cycle. But the next year, 9-4, and you win a bowl game. And then at that point, it's a consistent program. Again, 8, 9 win type years, had the 11 win season in 2018, won the Alamo Bowl, finished top 10 in the country. And then you finish up 19 and move here. 6-6 regular season, lose bowl game. But Mississippi State, talent-wise, was not in the position Washington State was. And I would submit to you, probably not even as bad as what Texas Tech was. And in 2020, it's a crazy year. Of course, you win the bowl game, but it's an outlier. You can't really judge anybody based on that. I mean, it was a tough year. But this is year 3. And so those guys that kind of absorbed all of that, all of the adversity and all the craziness of 2020, those guys are now juniors or seniors. And people forget in 2020 we're the youngest team in the Power 5. And some people had us as the youngest team in the country. I don't know if that's possible, But the reality of it is we took our lumps that year, and last year we got better. We took a step forward. We didn't end the way we wanted to. I mean, think about how we would feel today if State wins the Egg and wins a bowl game, and you end up with a 9-win season. And it's easy to kind of go in hindsight and say, we should have won 9 last year. We could have easily won 5 too. We could have lost to Louisiana Tech and to Auburn. I mean, looking back last year's schedule, I mean, you made that great comeback to beat Tech. That awful pick 6, seemed like that was the end of the game. But we didn't quit. We had a great fourth quarter. Then we dominated NC State in many respects. Lose that game against Memphis in controversial fashion. And listen, LSU beat us 28-25, and everybody says, well, listen, the game was over. We made a run for it late, but LSU was just a bit better than us. And we beat A&M, hammer by Alabama, you hammer Vandy, hammer Kentucky. Lose the game you probably shouldn't have lost to Arkansas. Probably should have won that game. You win one, you probably should have lost at Auburn. So it's kind of half one way, 6 dozen the other, but or 6 one way, half a dozen the other. Even point. But could have gone either way. But it is what it is, right? And so we finished 4th in the league last year. That's often lost in translation. I actually tied for 3rd at 4-4 with Arkansas. Of course, a lot of people thought Arkansas had a great year last year. I thought Arkansas was good. I didn't think they were great. So we're in a 3-way tie there with Arkansas and A&M. Finished ahead of Auburn and LSU. That's not going to happen very often. I think Auburn, as I told you guys, Auburn's going to be behind us this year. But I'm excited about football because I'm excited about Will Rogers. I think we've got the quarterback situation resolved. And, of course, there's all these people that think, we would be throwing vertical if we had a bigger arm quarterback. It's not really the scheme. It's just not. It's just not the scheme. And it's because of how people play defensive against us. And Woody Marks, now a junior. Dylan Johnson, now a junior. Jaden Wallach, now a junior. And so now you've had the benefit of 2 SEC seasons. And again, I think we're going to take a step forward. Do we contend for the West? No, I don't think so. We could be better or worse than I suspect. I think we finish 8-4 in the regular season. But I don't understand why we have some folks already kind of quitting on the season. And I'm going to encourage you today. I'm not going to sit here and tell you how to act or how to believe or how to behave. I just want to share with you that, this is a team that did some amazing things last year that you didn't expect. I suspect that's going to be the case this year. Now, the Mike Leach experience has been you usually win a game you shouldn't win, you lose a game you shouldn't lose. And that was the case last year. But I suspect that this team, on the strength of a very good defense, and this is going to be, I think, has the potential to be Zach Arnett's best defense at Mississippi State. Well, Steve, how can you say that? Well, because I think we're going to be really strong in the front seven. We're going to be really strong at corner. We should be better at safety. Are we going to be really strong there? That's the personnel group that concerns me a little bit. You got some depth there, but I don't know if you've got the production there just yet. And I think that, that second team linebacker group, we can't afford to really get anybody hurt at linebacker. We don't have a lot. Deshaun Page is a guy we expect big things from. But, we can't absorb too much, wear and tear there at the linebacker position. But I think with the strength of the fact that this offensive nucleus that has played together now for 2 years, and then a defense that I think is as talented or more talented than any that we've had since Mike has been here, I think that there's some makings of a good team. And people, they get caught up in the talking points at the moment. Well, Mississippi State's got a difficult schedule. We always have a difficult schedule. Always have a difficult schedule. We play in the SEC West. And so until they change that, that's kind of what we're dealing with. So I never let that bother me. It's not ever anything that I look at. And I began to think about this schedule. State has a really good chance to win all 4 to non-conference games. And let's say, worst case scenario, it's 3-1. But I believe you're going to win all 4. I think we're going to go to Arizona and win. I do. And so then all of a sudden you begin to think, well, if we can do as good as we did last year in the league, we're 8-4. Now, does that mean you're going to beat A&M and Auburn? I don't think you beat them both. But you start running through the numbers here and you look, okay, A&M's got to come to Starkville. We have had a great deal of success against those guys for whatever reason. And I think we'll be ready to play. And that's, again, that's coming off, probably a 3-1 start. Bowling Green, hopefully that's a game that we can rest some guys in the fourth and be a little fresher. Then you got Arkansas coming in. They've beaten us 2 years in a row. We should have won both of those games. We didn't. They made the plays to win, and we didn't. But the reality of it is it's really been our own ineptitude rather than Arkansas overwhelming us. We couldn't get a stop last year to win the ball game. And even with that, we had a chance to get down and kick a game-time field goal. We got to go to Kentucky, which is always a dogfight. But that's a team, again, we've had some success with in the past 20 years. And then Auburn and Georgia come here. So you look at it and you say, well, you know what? There's not a lot of margin for error here to get to 4-4 in the league. You got to go to Ole Miss, and I don't think Ole Miss is going to be as good as people expect. They were better than I expected them to be last year, and they could be again. I just, with all they've lost, I think you lose a generational talent like Matt Corral, who I think exceeded everybody's expectations last year. I think we're going to go in there and win that ball game. And so you basically trade Vanderbilt for Georgia, and that's a game that's a game you're not expected to win. So that that would make you maybe 3-5, but I think you've got to find a way to win one you didn't win last year, and I think that's probably Arkansas. But I think we can get A&M. I think we can. I believe we'll get Arkansas. I believe we'll get Georgia. I believe we'll get Auburn. I believe we'll get Kentucky. I believe we'll get Auburn. We won't get Georgia. We got a chance to get Ole Miss. So we could go 4-4, potentially 5-3 in the league. To me, the only 2 sure losses are Alabama and Georgia. That's the only 2 I look at and say we're definitely going to lose those games. I think Mike Leach is going to have us in every game. Now, going down the Death Valley is always tough. I never expect to go down there and win. And we have, but I never expected. But this is, again, I think it's okay to have a little enthusiasm. I think this is a guy, too, that's going to do a great job for us. And I think when you look at, if you know Will Rogers at all, you got to know he's going to bring his best effort this year. And I think the supporting cast around him is outstanding. Yes, you've got to replace Mekhi Polk, but I think the system itself kind of lends itself to productivity. Maybe Caleb Ducking picks up some of that slack. Maybe it's Justin Robinson. Maybe it's Jordan Mosley. But offensively, and I have friends of mine that's like they'll just sit around one day and all of a sudden decide to have a pity party. I think the offensive line is going to struggle. Well, the offensive line didn't struggle last year, other than the right tackle position. I think Albert Reese done a good job over there. I think we're going to be better at right tackle. We won't be as good at left tackle. There's no way. But I think the interior offensive line is going to be very good. And, you know, you look at our numbers, you know, snap and sack percentage-wise, it's among the best in the country. You know, people only remember, you know, the ones that were significant. You know, offensive line struggling, but then when you look at how many times we're dropping back to pass set and how many times that our quarterback actually goes down, it's different. And, of course, some of that's Will, too. Will can't hold the ball quite as long, and that's part of maturation, and he's getting there. But I think we're going to have a good year. Is it going to be a great year? I'm not ready to make that declaration, and you never know what teams are going to look like when you play them. But I think we're going to have a good year. I think we're a solid bowl team again, and I think it's okay. But, again, if we go 8-4 in the regular season and win the Egg, you're going to be thrilled. You're going to go, hey, we had a good year. We're going in the right direction. And I believe that's the year you're going to get. Maybe I'm wrong. If you're looking for books, and you should be, go to dogpilethebook.com. I had a book signing this weekend at Lemuria Books. It was thankful for everybody that came in. It was great, kind of a good pace where I could kind of visit with people. Wasn't like the big line of 20 people to begin with. People kind of filtered in. I got there a little bit early just for that reason. Had a great book signing. Thank you guys so much for coming out. But if you're looking for books, go to dogpilethebook.com. You can get all my sports books there. Flim Flam, Dogpile, Stark Villains, Alpha Dogs. They're about to do an inventory because got about 6,000 new copies of Dogpile coming in. How about that? You know, for a long time, we kind of slowed down the promotion a little bit because we want to run out of books. And so many of you said, well, I'll just wait. The second printing's in. So that's this week. So get in line, dogpilethebook.com. It's Father's Day. Your summer reading time is here. You need something to read. And even if you're not a big reader, you just need to have this one in your house. You need to have this as a keepsake. I have so many people that have bought multiple copies just for that very reason. So be sure and check it out. Go to Amazon.com to get Bloom's Oleander. And, of course, there's a lot that goes with that as well. You know, that was a different part of me. Stark Villains gear, always available at starkvillains.com. We'll be back on Wednesday. We're getting ready to preview Super Regionals, and we'll get ready to preview Top Dog Weekend. And again, that's going to be on Friday. So we'll have a programming note for you on Wednesday about Friday's show once I know the time and what time we can get out there and go to camp and see those guys. So I suspect we'll be able to do a Friday show, maybe do it Thursday night, and then have one on Monday to kind of recap how the camp went. That's kind of the plan today. Until next time, let's all live our lives in a way we make more friends than enemies, and people can see a difference in the way we live.
Introducing Under Armour's Infinity High Sports Bra. Its ergonomic design is molded to support the natural movement of your body. With cord-out padding, the better breathability eliminates extra bulk without sacrificing support. And quick-dry padding is Under Armour's fastest-drying padding yet. When you're lifting heavy, running fast, and pushing yourself further than ever before, you need a bra that will help you go that extra mile and make you feel your best. Shop the Infinity High Sports Bra now at UA.com.